Freedom was completely snatched from it by the Chinese Communist Party in 2019, and before that, China had already started taking over Hong Kong bit by bit. China weakened media freedom. It weakened the autonomy of the government. It installed a lying stooge, Carrie Lam, to do its bidding. It cracked down on pro-democracy protesters. It arrested media moguls and young activists. This marked the demise of Hong Kong, once a robust democracy with ideals of freedom, now a CCP bastion where no one can speak their mind. Soon there was an exodus of money and of people. Then China barred the people of Hong Kong from leaving, but it could never stop the money from leaving. And now the people have also found a way to get out. And in the process, Hong Kong is self-destructing because the spoils of the war must not be enjoyed by China. Instead, the money and the brilliant minds are blessing other nations, enemies of China. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Shubhangi, and in this video, I will tell you how pro-democracy Hong Kongers can get back at China. Let's begin. Last year, the Chinese Communist Party under Xi Jinping practically took over Hong Kong, ignoring the deal with the United Kingdom and ignoring the will of the people in an iron-fisted manner. However, as the situation of the Chinese economy becomes more and more precarious, Hong Kong finally has the opportunity to get back at China and its leader Xi Jinping, and Hong Kongers are doing that by shifting base to Taiwan. According to data from the Hong Kong Census and Statistics Department, the number of people fleeing from Hong Kong has been steadily increasing, with the territory's population reducing by 110,000 people from 2019 to this year. The installation of the draconian national security law in Hong Kong has certainly resulted in a major population exodus. While this in itself is a concerning story for Beijing, Hong Kong is losing not only its residents but also overseas firms. For instance, Vanguard Group, the world's second largest assets firm, VF Corporation, and even Sony Interactive Entertainment have relocated their top regional managements to Singapore. The world's largest luxury goods company, Louis Vuitton, has also relocated its personnel from the Hennessy alcoholic beverage branch in Hong Kong to Singapore. While it was not able to withstand and tackle the introduction and implementation of the national security law, now it can make Beijing pay hefty sums. On the 5th of October, investor expectations of increased interest rates fueled a global sell-off in technology equities, with the Hong Kong benchmark tracking Chinese technology firms closing near a record low. The Hang Seng Technology Index, which began trading in July of last year, dipped 0.3% after recovering from earlier losses of up to 2.5%. The index, which includes Tencent Holdings and the Alibaba Group holding, is set to fall for the fourth week in a row. While the early trends have shown a visible preference to Singapore, Taiwan has also been interested in attracting these departing firms. Given its efficient handling of the pandemic and creating a bustling, business-friendly and transparent administrative environment, Taiwan is well placed to gain from the loss to China. While other countries are struggling to manage the pandemic, Taiwan has handled the situation in a comparatively commendable way, even in these geopolitically tense times. COVID-19 is present in 0.067% of the Taiwanese people. Aside from the requirement of wearing masks, life in Taiwan is almost untouched by the illness. This is a rare living and business environment for international firms in the midst of the pandemic. To further strengthen the argument, Taiwan was also ranked second in Asia with 94 points, second only to Japan in Freedom House's annual Freedom in the World report, whereas Singapore received 48 points and was classified as a partly free country. Therefore, this can be a big plus in favor of Taiwan to further gain traction among the foreign businesses leaving China to relocate to Taiwan. Xi Jinping has taken a spate of decisions over the past year that has led to China's economy to bleed. The recent collapse of property giant China Evergrande Group has exposed a fragile real estate bubble in China. Land and property sales are dwindling in China with Jinping's tight regulatory measures that prohibit financial support towards construction and property projects. As the Chinese real estate bubble bursts, onshore and offshore bondholders stare at huge losses running into billions of dollars. Meanwhile, Xi is murdering private enterprise. He is cracking down on tech and edutech enterprises relentlessly, which has led to the state-owned enterprises surpassing the private sector in China in terms of profits. Meanwhile, the Chinese stock markets are crashing and hurting the interests of both domestic and overseas investors. As per the Washington-based Institute of International Finance, China's debt stood at 300% of its GDP in 2019. However, the overall debt burden is hard to estimate given the country's tendency to use local governments' financing vehicles for bypassing direct debt. The power sector crisis, which has been triggered by Jinping's decision to avoid importing Australian coal, has led to major suffering. Thermal projects in China that were fine-tuned to work with Australian coal are suddenly collapsing, and the entire communist nation is getting engulfed in blackouts, even as factories and manufacturing units shut down in China's industrial belts. While Hong Kong surely is not able to take on China in the show of force, these developments in Hong Kong, along with qualified people and rich investors leaving and moving to other countries, with Taiwan too becoming a lucrative prospect, shows that China can indeed bleed when it is in the most vulnerable situation. And this situation is turning out to be a way of getting back at China for its actions against the people of Hong Kong.